You're listening to The Philosopher's Note on The Big Leap. More wisdom in less time.
Hi, this is Brian. Welcome to The Philosopher's Notes on The Big Leap. Conquer your hidden fear and take life to the next level by Gay Hendricks, PhD. We'll start with a quote from Gay. He says, quote, "Are you willing to take the big leap to your ultimate level of success in love, money, and creative contribution?" End quote. So Gay Hendricks is one of my favorite people on the planet. I'm blessed to have him as a friend, a mentor, and a business partner. And The Big Leap is awesome. So I had two big challenges when I was writing this note on The Big Leap. One, I kept on getting distracted by all the amazing thought and feeling-provoking questions and exercises that Gay poses throughout the book, which I actually think is probably the greatest value in the book. It's just really opening into all these different opportunities to explore possibilities in your life. That was the first challenge. I kept on writing in my journal and having all these ideas. The second challenge was there are a lot of big ideas in the book. That's a good problem to have. The quick overview of the book, it's basically all about taking the big leap beyond what Gay calls our upper limits as we learn to live in our zone of genius, a place where time flows and we expand in success, abundance, and love every day as we inspire those around us to do the same. And if that sounds like a leap you'd like to take in this precious hero's journey of yours, then get the book now. Seriously, it's that good. Plus, you might also dig another one of Gay's great, quick-reading, deeply transformative books called 5 Wishes. That was actually the first book I read of Gay's, 5 Wishes. Super cool. All right, let's leap into this note. The first big idea is, are you willing to feel good all the time? Quote, "Am I willing to feel good and have my life go well all the time?" At first glance, you might ask, who wouldn't say yes to all of these questions? Well, for many of us, the idea of all of this positive emotion seems far-fetched to begin with. It is easy for us to just assume that with the positive comes the negative. To that, I say, why not get willing and see what happens? We humans have a long and wonderful history of transcending our beliefs about what's possible. In the early days of the steam-powered train, learned scientists urged capping the speed at 30 miles per hour because they believed that the human body exploded at speeds greater than that. Finally, some brave people risked going beyond that limiting belief and found that they did not explode. I think we're approximately at that same stage of development with regard to our ability to feel good and have our lives go well. End quote. I love that story. So Gay opens the book by asking us 4 questions, starting with, am I willing to increase the amount of time every day that I feel good inside? Then, am I willing to increase the amount of time that my whole life goes well? Then, am I willing to feel good and have my life go well all the time? And finally, he asks, are you willing to take the big leap to your ultimate level of success in love, money, and creative contribution? So isn't it a little weird that we seem to have a built-in limit to just how much goodness we can experience? I love the vision of scientists saying the human body would explode at speeds in excess of 30 miles per hour. In hindsight, that's kind of funny. And I love the connection to our current notions about the upper limits of our abilities to experience joy, success, love, and abundance. It's like we have psychologists and scientists telling us, if you're too happy, you're going to explode. Well, Gay says, why not open to the possibility that there's more happiness we can let into our lives and feel good all the time? So his question is, am I willing to feel good and have my life go well all the time? Think about that. Are you willing to feel good and have your life go well all the time? Or do you think you'd explode before something like that was possible? As Gay says, quote, in my view, saying yes to that question is one of the most courageous actions a human being can take. In the face of so much evidence that life hurts and is fraught with adversity on all fronts, having a willingness to feel good and have life go well all the time is a genuinely radical act. End quote. Well, I say we go for it. And we move on to the next big idea as well, which is a handshake deal with the universe. Quote, you know deep inside you that you will never be fully satisfied until you have anchored yourself in your zone of genius. To do less would be to hold back. And long ago, you made a handshake deal with the universe that you wouldn't do that. The seductive comforts of success, though, can lull us into accepting the status quo. In that state of comfort, it's easy to forget the deal you made with the universe to use yourself fully. End quote. I love that. In case you might have tried to forget, and don't worry, we can try as much as we want, but we can never actually forget. But in case you're trying to forget, you made a handshake deal with the universe. It was a very simple deal. You committed to not holding back, to fully expressing yourself in this precious life of yours. So acorns have an oak tree to become, and kittens have a cat to become. You have a radiant human being fully expressing your gifts to become. In his classic book, The Courage to Create, Rollo May says this, and you can see the notes on it. He says, quote, the acorn becomes an oak by means of automatic growth. No commitment is necessary. The kitten similarly becomes a cat on the basis of instinct. Nature and being are identical in creatures like them. But a man or woman becomes fully human only by his or her choices and his or her commitment to them. People attain worth and dignity by the multitude of decisions they make from day by day. These decisions require courage, end quote. Abraham Maslow tells us, quote, musicians must make music, artists must paint, poets must write if they are to be ultimately at peace with themselves. What human beings can be, they must be. They must be true to their own nature. This need we may call self-actualization. It refers to man's desire for self-fulfillment, namely to the tendency for him to become actually in what he is potentially, to become everything one is capable of becoming, end quote. If there's one theme to these notes, it's to remind you of your highest potential and to inspire and empower you to go for it. And you gotta love that majestic handshake deal you made with the universe, huh? So are you honoring that deal? Pay attention. What we can be, we must be, as Maslow says. That leads us to the next big idea, which is our thermostats are set too low. Each of us has an inner thermostat setting that determines how much love, success, and creativity we allow ourselves to enjoy. When we exceed our inner thermostat setting, we will often do something to sabotage ourselves, causing us to drop back into the old, familiar zone where we feel secure. Unfortunately, our thermostat setting usually gets programmed in early childhood, before we can think for ourselves. Once programmed, our upper limit thermostat setting holds us back from enjoying all the love, financial abundance, and creativity that's rightfully ours. It keeps us in our zone of competence, or at best, our zone of excellence. It prevents us from living in the ultimate destination of the journey, our zone of genius. End quote. So the coolest way to imagine the upper limit goes something like this. Think of it like a thermostat. If you have a thermostat in your house set to 60 degrees, the moment your house starts to get a little warmer, creeping up to 62, 64 degrees, what happens? The air conditioner kicks in and brings the temperature back to a chilly 60 degrees, right? Same thing with the level of happiness, love, financial abundance, success, and creativity we experience in our lives. If our thermostats are set too low, we're going to constantly sabotage ourselves as we bump up against our upper limits. Psychologists call this our happiness set point, and we talk about this idea in a couple other notes. In her great book, Happy for No Reason, for example, and you can see the notes on that, Marcy Shimoff says, quote, researchers have found that no matter what happens to you in life, you tend to return to a fixed range of happiness. Like your weight set point, which keeps the scale hovering around the same number, your happiness set point will remain the same unless you make a concerted effort to change it. In fact, there was a famous study conducted that tracked people who'd won the lottery, what many people think of as the ticket to the magic kingdom of joy. Within a year, these lucky winners returned to approximately the same level of happiness they'd experienced before their windfall. Surprisingly, the same was true for people who became paraplegic. Within a year or so of being disabled, they also returned to their original happiness level. End quote. So, we have a thermostat that'll upper limit us as we expand. The good news is we can learn to become more and more aware of the behaviors we've adopted that sabotage us when we're heating up more than our set point is comfy with. And the book is all about making the big leap beyond these unnecessarily low set points into a state of ever-expanding success, love, and abundance. If this is resonating with you, again, I highly recommend you get it and rock out with your journal as you discover the behaviors you're employing to cool yourself off. All right, the next big idea is waving to our fears. Quote, unless you're very lucky or very enlightened, you're likely to hear those nattering voices and feel those nagging fears within you. They're part of the deal. I won't try to talk you out of them, and you shouldn't try to talk yourself out of them either. Just notice the voices and feel the fears. That's all you need to do with them. You don't need to rid yourself of them. Where would they go anyway? All you need to do is acknowledge them, wave to them, let them know you're aware of them. Then get busy learning to live in your zone of genius. End quote. That's awesome. I don't know about you, but I still hear those little voices of fear in my head and those little fear gremlins running through my system on occasion. And I love Gay's visual of simply acknowledging them and waving at them. Imagine that. The next time your little fearsicles come out, that's the technical description for them, rather than frantically try to get rid of them or ignore them or pretend they aren't there, why not acknowledge them and wave at them? Waves. Maybe even throw in a wink and a little happy dance in their direction. Then get busy doing what needs to be done as you rock it in your zone of genius. Reminds me of a couple of my favorite thoughts on fear. First, the artist Georgia O'Keeffe said, "I've been afraid every single day of my life, but I've gone ahead and done it anyway." Even Tiger Woods says that the day he's not nervous stepping up to the first tee is the day he quits. The fact is that as we play at our edges, of course we're going to have fear. That's not a big deal. It's how we respond to the fear that'll determine the quality of our lives. How about we explore some more great ideas on how to deal with fear? Gay's got a lot of them in the book. He says this, next big idea, breathe into fear. Quote, there's only one way to get through the fog of fear, and that's to transform it into the clarity of exhilaration. One of the greatest pieces of wisdom I've ever heard comes from Fritz Perls, MD, the psychiatrist and founder of Gestalt therapy. He said, fear is excitement without the breath. Here's what this intriguing statement means. The very same mechanisms that produce excitement also produce fear, and any fear can be transformed into excitement by breathing fully with it. On the other hand, excitement turns into fear quickly if you hold your breath. When scared, most of us have a tendency to try to get rid of the feeling. We think we can get rid of it by denying or ignoring it, and we use holding our breath as a physical tool of denial. End quote. So this is a really big idea. Fear is excitement without the breath. We've talked about the fact that the very same mechanisms that produce fear also produce excitement in our notes on overachievement and on the Silva method of mental dynamics. It's a really powerful concept. So the energy itself is neutral. It's how we interpret it via our thoughts and actions and behaviors that determines whether we experience excitement or fear. The fastest way to channel the energy into fear, hold your breath. Imagine everything that can go wrong and then don't take action. Equals fear. The fastest way to channel the energy into excitement, breathe deeply and imagine all the amazing things you're about to experience and then just go for it. Gay also says this about breathing into it. Quote, the best advice I can give you is to take big, easy breaths when you feel fear. Feel the fear instead of pretending it's not there. Celebrate it with a big breath, just the way you'd celebrate your birthday by taking a big breath and blowing out all the candles on your cake. Do that, and your fear turns into excitement. Do it more, and your excitement turns into exhilaration. I find it very empowering to know that I'm in charge of the exhilaration I feel as I go through life. I bet you will too." End quote. So John Elliott, in his phenomenal book, Overachievement, you can see the notes on that, says this about just going for it. Quote, "The physical symptoms of fight or flight are what the human body has learned over thousands of years to operate more efficiently and at the highest level. Anxiety is a cognitive interpretation of that physical response." He continues, quote, "Exceptional thinkers learn to trust their consciousness. They teach themselves the power of positive action. They don't stop to think about how great the act is going to be. Instead, they act." End quote. So are you feeling some fear? Well, take a deep breath and celebrate it as you blow out some imaginary candles and just do it. And don't forget Emerson's mojo on the subject. He says, always, 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 always do the thing you fear, and the ultimate death of fear is certain. Of course, we'll experience different types of fears at different edges, but as we get better and better and better at courageously celebrating the fear, breathing into it, and then just doing it, our power increases and increases and increases, as I'm sure you've experienced throughout your life. Let's make it a more and more stable habit, which leads us to the next big idea, which is breakthroughs, stabilization, and integration. Quote, "I explained that while breakthroughs are important and thrilling, it's the subsequent stabilization and integration of the breakthrough into daily life that really allow the changes to be permanent." End quote. So I love the whole business of breakthroughs followed by stabilization and then integration. Ken Wilber describes it as states and stages, and it's a really important concept to embrace and bring into our lives. You can see my notes on Wilber for a longer discussion on that. But the basic idea is very simple and very powerful when appreciated and applied. And it goes like this. We often have moments of inspiration or breakthroughs or state experiences when we see the world in a new, revolutionary way. Those experiences are, of course, awesome. And they're only really meaningful if, after the initial buzz wears off, we have the discipline and the diligence and the patience and the persistence and the playfulness, I might add, to create the structures in our lives that enable that breakthrough to stabilize and integrate and become a new way of being or a stage of development. States and stages. Make sense? So how can you integrate some of your aha breakthroughs more into your life today? The next big idea is sweaty 10-minute conversations. Quote, "Behind every communication problem is a sweaty 10-minute conversation you don't want to have. However, the moment you work up the courage to have it, you collect an instant reward in relief as well as open up a flow of communication that will allow you to resolve the situation." End quote. So Gay and his wife Katie are two of the world's leading relationship experts, and I just love this idea. You can check out my notes on Gay and Katie Hendricks for more relationship stuff. We'll get right to the point on this one. What sweaty 10-minute conversation do you not want to have that you need to have? Think about that. What are you avoiding? Get on it. Avoiding it is an upper limiting behavior. But if you take action and you just have the conversation, you'll collect the instant rewards and relief and an open flow of communication as you resolve the situation. So go for it. Next big idea is worry. Quote, "Worrying is usually a sign that we're upper limiting. It's usually not a sign that we're thinking about something useful. The crucial sign that we're worrying unnecessarily is when we're worrying about something we have no control over. Worrying is useful only if it concerns a topic we can actually do something about, and if it leads to our taking positive action right away. All other worry is just upper limit noise, designed by our unconscious to keep us safely within our zone of excellence or zone of competence." End quote. That's awesome. So are you worrying about anything in your life right now? Check in and see if you have control over it. If you can't do anything about it, worrying isn't going to help. So quit leaking your energy like that. If you can do something about it, what are you waiting for? Get on it. Sitting there and worrying isn't doing anything. All right, the next big idea is find and fully use your gifts. So we just talked about some of the upper limit issues. Now we're going to get into the genius zone that we want to play in with a couple of the next big ideas. Find and fully use your gifts. Quote, on Judgment Day, Mr. Lewin said, and Mr. Lewin was a character in the book, a neighbor of Gay's when he was growing up. So, quote, on Judgment Day, Mr. Lewin said, God will not ask, why were you not Moses? He will ask, why were you not Sam Lewin? The goal in life is not to attain some imaginary ideal. It is to find and fully use our own gifts, end quote. That's fantastic. Another theme we hit on again and again and again is this idea that we need to quit comparing ourselves to anyone. Buscaglia in Love, and you can see the notes on that, says, quote, you are the best you. You will always be the second best anyone else. Emerson says, envy is ignorance. Imitation is suicide. And Osho says, and you can see the notes on Emerson and Osho as well, quote, each person is born with a unique individuality, and each person has a destiny of his or her own. Imitation is crime. It is criminal. If you try to become a Buddha, you may look like Buddha, you may walk like him, you may talk like him, but you will miss. You will miss all that life was ready to deliver to you. Buddha happens only once. It is not in the nature of things to repeat. Existence is so creative that it never repeats anything. You cannot find another human being in the present, in the past, or in the future who is going to resemble you exactly. It has never happened. The human being is not a mechanism like Ford cars on an assembly line. Never imitate anybody, end quote. So Osho tells us imitation is crime, while Emerson tells us it's suicide. Those are strong words, and they're very deliberately chosen by those guys. So are you trying to be someone else? That's not going to help you take the big leap into your zone of genius. Answering these questions will, though. What are your amazing gifts? How can you fully use them? When do you feel most alive? What work do you do that doesn't seem like work? What would you actually pay to do? Figure that out, then figure out how to get paid to do it. That's playing in your zone of genius. Take some time, journal. Make it a part of your daily practice and really discover how you can play most fully in your zone of genius. So the final big idea is big leaps into your zone of genius. Quote, discovering your zone of genius is your life's big leap. Everything up until now has been about hops, not leaps. Hopping, though it seems safe, is actually hazardous to your health. If you confine yourself to hops, you run the risk of rusting from the inside out, end quote. Pretty strong words. So are you ready for the big leap? Me too. Let's rock it. Take one big leap after another. So that's the note. I'm going to share a little bit about Gay Hendricks. I'm going to share some of the other notes I think you'll enjoy. And then I'm going to share a bunch of the quotes by Gay from the sidebar in the PDF. So Gay Hendricks is the author of The Big Leap. He has served for more than 30 years as one of the major contributors to the fields of relationship transformation and body-mind therapies. Along with his wife, Dr. Kathleen Hendricks, Gay is the author of many bestsellers, including Conscious Loving, At the Speed of Life, and 5 Wishes. Gay received his PhD in counseling psychology from Stanford University in 1974. Side note, the year I was born. After a 21-year career as a professor at the University of Colorado, he founded the Hendricks Institute, which offers seminars in North America, Asia, and Europe. He is also the founder of the new virtual learning center for transformation called Gaia Illumination University. You can learn more about Gay at www.hendricks.com. Unbelievably cool guy. Really think you'll enjoy his work, both 5 Wishes and his other books, as well as his relationship work with his wife, Katie Hendricks. So check him out at hendricks.com. And if you like this note, I think you'll enjoy the note on Gay and Katie Hendricks. I think you'll enjoy the note on Abraham Maslow, Ken Wilber, The Magic of Thinking Big, Ask and It Is Given, The Courage to Create, and Overachievement. Now for some of the quotes from the side. Go all the way and inspire them with your full expression. I expand in success, abundance, and love every day as I inspire those around me to do the same. It's actually one of the mantras that Gay suggests in the book. I expand in success, abundance, and love every day as I inspire those around me to do the same. To me, if something has the highest priority, it means I do it first. It takes a certain ruthlessness to set a priority and stick to it. If we think it's even remotely possible to feel good all the time and have life go well all the time, we owe it to ourselves to find out how many of us can do it. She also discovered the real fear that was underneath it all, that if she made a big commitment to her creativity, she might fail on a bigger scale. If she stayed small, she could avoid the possibility of big rejection. If you will make a powerful, sincere commitment, a vow that you really want to live your life in the zone of genius, your journey will be blessed with uncommon good fortune at all the twists and turns of the road. Commitment has that power. We all need to be on the lookout for signs of our upper limit problem every day of our lives. It's a constant quest because we're always raising the bar on ourselves. The better we get, the better we want to be. When you're upper limiting, you're doing something that is crimping your flow of positive energy. Fortunately, there are not that many ways we upper limit ourselves. I encourage you to adopt this kind of playfulness toward all of your upper limit problems. An attitude of playful wonder is characteristic of people when they're operating in the zone of genius. A hex is often put on gifted and talented people early in life. The hex causes them to feel bad when they shine especially brightly. The problem is that a deep sacred part of you will wither and die if you stay inside your zone of excellence. There's only one place where you will ultimately thrive and feel satisfied, and that's the zone of genius. So I said, let's make a new deal between you and the universe right now. Are you willing to be wealthy in both money and love? And finally, life is at its best when love, money, and creativity are growing in harmony. So that's a quick look at a really good book, The Big Leap. 224 pages, quick read, lots of journal exercises guaranteed from it. I think you'll dig it, and hope you enjoyed the note, and looking forward to sharing more with you. Have an awesome day. Here's to the Big Leap.
We hope you enjoyed this Philosopher's Note. Please go to www.philosophersnotes.com to download more.